Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm so glad you were joining me this morning. Before we talk about today's worship service, let's sing a quick song to welcome everyone that has joined us. You ready? Hello, everybody. How do you do? How do you do? How do you do? Hello, everybody. How do you do? God loves you today. Thank you for singing with me. Today is the 7th Sunday after Pentecost, during what we call ordinary time. You might notice that I'm filming from a different spot today. That's because we are going to talk a little bit about light. So I found a spot near a lamp. In fact, if you want to try something special today, create your own picture about light. There are lots of different kinds of light, so feel free to pick one that's special to you. I think I'm going to draw a sunshine. As you are listening to the readings and the sermon, write down words or pictures that stick out to you and describe how you're feeling. In today's service, we'll start with our call to worship. Remember, this is where we call our heart, our minds, and our whole selves to be with God and to be with each other. Then we will sing the opening hymn. Listen for the words. We have been sung throughout all of history, called to be light to the whole human race. We will hear 3 readings today. The first reading is from the book of Psalms. We will hear the words, "If I take the wings of morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast." In this passage, your means God. So when I hear this part, I'm reminded that God is always with us. The second reading is from the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Bible. Jacob has a dream, which you'll hear about. Then when he wakes up, he says, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." I love what he says so much because I often forget that too. God is here always, but sometimes I'm just not paying attention. The third reading is from the book of Romans, which is a letter. You will hear, "For in hope we are saved." Now, hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. For me, hope means believing in a better world. So it makes sense to me that this is not something we see, it's something we look for. Instead of a storybook today, we are going to talk about a very important person, a man named John Lewis. Congressman John Lewis died this week, and I think we can learn a lot by looking at his life. In a book he wrote about his life, Congressman Lewis wrote, "You are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone, any person or force, dampen, dim, or diminish your light." As you hear about this life, about Congressman Lewis, think about where you see his light. Congressman Lewis was born in February 1940. He grew up on a farm in a small town in Alabama, and all around him, he saw segregation and racial discrimination. This means people were separated based on their race. They were treated poorly because of how people saw their race. John Lewis heard the sermons of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the radio, and he decided to become part of the civil rights movement. John Lewis thought Dr. King was a lot like Moses, and he thought the church could play an important role in moving towards freedom. He began giving sermons in churches in his area at age 15. Wow. When John Lewis was in college, he began to organize sit-ins. A sit-in is a form of protest where people gather together, refusing to move unless their demands are met. John Lewis and others would go to movie theaters, restaurants, and other businesses, and they would just sit at a place that said white people only could sit there. They were protesting how unfair this was. Sometimes they would be arrested. In his life, Congressman Lewis was arrested over 40 times. In 1961, John Lewis participated in something called Freedom Rides, where he and others would sit in seats that were designed for white passengers. They were reserved for only white people, they said. That's not fair. John Lewis risked his life doing this. In 1963, he spoke at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. He was the youngest person to speak, and many said he was the most controversial. On March 7th, 1965, John Lewis, along with someone named Hosea Williams, led several hundred protesters across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. This was a demonstration that was supposed to draw attention to voting rights in the South. This march now is known as Bloody Sunday because of how violently the marchers were treated. Lewis himself was attacked and suffered a fractured skull. But he didn't stop there. He continued to be involved, coordinating voter registration drives and community action programs. He served on Atlanta's City Council, then represented Georgia in Congress for 34 years. God made each of us to be a light to the world. Congressman Lewis is an excellent example of what that means. He shows us what it looks like to see hope, to spread hope, to recognize that God is in every place and will be with us in whatever we do. To close today, I'm going to invite you to sing When We Walk. Congressman Lewis let his light shine as he marched alongside others his whole life. And I think he set an incredible example for us as we walk with God. Instead of the way I have danced to this before, I'm going to show you some other actions. But you can do whichever one you prefer. Are you ready? When we walk, we know that God is walking with us everywhere we go. When we walk, we know that God is walking with us everywhere we go. God will be in front. God will be in back. God will be around us and will keep our feet on track. You are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone, any person, or any force dampen, dim, or diminish your light. I hope you really enjoy this service today. Bye.